Do you find that you're constantly stuck in a state of lack or survival mode, and there's never enough money or love or time even, and you're easily triggered, you're constantly anxious, you're quick to anger because you're ungrounded, and you attract toxic dynamics, whether it's in the workplace or in your relationships, and it's really hard to manifest things. And when you do, it's harder to sustain them, and there's always something that happens, like you self-sabotage for some reason. And it's just really hard to find that stability, but you crave it. If any of this resonates, then this video is for you, and don't worry, you're not alone. This is just a good indication that you have an imbalance in your root chakra. And my name is Angela, and this is an introductory video to the root chakra for my series, Feed Your Chakras. If you are new to the chakra system, you're more than welcome here. This video is a great place to start. But also, if you are a little more seasoned and knowledgeable in this area, you're also invited to stick around because you might learn something new and gain a new perspective. So I'm just going to start with the basics. In English, we know it as the root chakra, but in Sanskrit, it is called Mūlādhāra. Mūlādhāra. And its meaning is root support or foundation. It is located at the base of the spine or the perineum, and it is associated with our legs, our feet, our colon, rectum, our bladder, our adrenal glands, our bones and skeletal system, and the pelvic floor. The frequency of this chakra is 396 hertz, and the seed sound, or the bija, is lam. Lam. And the mudra for this is when we take the ring finger and we touch it to the thumb. To activate this, we can chant lam with this mudra, and it really helps us bring us into that vibration. One thing about this chakra is in the 7 major chakras, most chakras point outwards, and this is our ability to give that energy. And then the back chakras are usually just a little lower, and it is our ability to receive. But the root chakra actually points down to the earth, as it's located right there in between our legs at the base of our spine. And the crown, on the opposite end of the spectrum, literally and figuratively, is right here at the top of our head, and it points up. So these two are kind of opposites, and this is like our portal, and this is what anchors us to the earth. And it's really important when we're doing this type of work to maintain a balance so that we're grounded as we ascend. Okay, and so moving back into the root chakra, what this chakra governs or represents is our sense of security, our stability, our safety, and our survival. So the 4 S's. It is connected to our basic needs, basic survival needs, our tribal instincts. So food, shelter, water, air, family, the things that we need to survive. And in that, it's also connected to our need to fit in. And this is actually what kind of conditions us, because we are conditioned by the society, which is also symbolic of the root chakra, because we need to fit into that. We need to adapt to our society, because fitting in was actually a survival method back in the day, because if you didn't have the tribe and you were out there in the wilderness all by yourself, anything could happen to you. So we've inherited that over, all of our generations and our lineage. It's also connected to our family, our blood family, our bloodline, but also our soul family. So we have chosen family, and we have our immediate family, which can often be very karmic, and we chose them and we have to learn lessons from them. But we don't necessarily have to take on all of their beliefs or their burdens. And that's one of our lessons that we can do for our own ancestral healing in this time on earth. So it is connected to the earth's energy. And as we are in this society where money is a construct for survival, money is also connected to this. So your finances is a big part of the root chakra. So I call this the money chakra, more so than survival, because that is what everybody focuses on. And when you're coming at this from an imbalanced place of lack, and you're trying to manifest more, you're going to manifest more lack. But we'll get into that later. It's also governed by being grounded and your own autonomy. So it's your own body, your physicality, because it's symbolic of our home, but your physical home to your soul is your vessel, is this organism. And so your health is also associated to that. How do you care for your temple? Is it clean? You know, and how do you feel in your body when the external environment is also one of the things that governs it. When your external environment is chaotic, can you be grounded in yourself? And that is really important for the embodiment of this chakra. And as it's connected to abundance, it's also connected, or finances, it's also connected to abundance, because the earth is abundant. And lack is just an illusion that we have because we think that there's not enough. But there's more than enough for everybody and everything that exists. And we have, you know, plenty of stuff. We have like mass consumption that we can't even like sustainably consume everything. Everything comes from earth, right? And so even money, which is just kind of fictitious, it's just the value of money is what we give to it. But what it is a measurement of energy for value and exchange, right? But we do have physical money, at least for now, which comes from trees for the paper, for the bills, or it comes from metal, from the earth, right? So everything here in this material world, on this 3D plane, on the earthly plane, comes from Gaia. And so everything is abundant. And the only reason we have lack is because we believe in the lack. So the more abundant you are, I believe, is the more grounded and connected to that earth energy and the abundance, so you can sustain it and hold it. And signs of imbalance, I mentioned some at the beginning. Anxiety, not feeling grounded. If you have fear is like, you know, it's a primal instinct, right? Fear is kind of what kept us safe. And also red is symbolic of danger, right? And so, you know, we needed as a survival to recognize danger. And so fear was very important. But if you're existing in fear, you also can't be feeling good, right? The two can't coexist within your energy at the exact same time. If you are constantly worried, whether it's about people, things, lack, that is a sign of instability. And then on instability, there's also financial instability. Maybe you're able to bring money in, but then it just goes right away. Or perhaps you have a scarcity mindset, and so you hoard things, whether it's money, whether it's belongings, and you're afraid to let things go. Because when you're doing that, you're creating a block and stagnancy in the energy, and you're not allowing things to flow. Also, a sign of imbalance is the need to control, because you're scared of whatever could happen if it's unknown, right? Another sign is hyper independence, because you've learned through whatever happened to you, your experiences, that you can't rely on anybody. You don't have a tribe, so you have to overcompensate. And in opposite to that is codependence. Codependence, where you need somebody in order to feel safe, fulfilled, whole, right? You're dependent on the tribe, and you don't have that sovereignty within yourself. And another extension of codependency is enmeshment, which is where the tribe is so close. This is very common in families. The tribe is so close and codependent that there's blurred lines and boundaries, and the expectations of other people's happiness is your responsibility, and you end up compromising yourself, your needs, your worth, whatever it is, for the collective. And then you're always subconsciously self-sabotaging yourself and your own needs. Okay, and don't worry if you resonated with any of that. we got you. There's plenty of ways that you can also bring yourself back into balance. You might also experience physical symptoms, which is lower back pain, foot problems, gout, pain in your ankles or in your legs, stiffness. If you're really stressed or get inflammation, or you're irritable, quick to anger, these are all signs of imbalance in the physical body. But let's get on to nourishing, because we don't want to stay there, do we? There's a lot of things you can do, which is great. And I share a lot of this in my series, Feed Your Chakras, but I'm just going to give a whole bunch of things to you right now that might help you out, because we all have different learning styles and we enjoy different things. But there's a number of things you can do to bring yourself into balance. And the first and foremost is grounding, earthing. You know, this is our chakra that connects us to the earth, and we are so disconnected, where you don't even connect with the earth because we wear shoes, we have concrete. People don't even go outside, they're working in a cubicle all day. So connecting to the earth, and preferably if you can do it barefoot, connecting directly to the earth. If you can't do barefoot, socks are still good. You can even sort of ground through concrete, but just even being around in nature, maybe you can't actually go outside for whatever reason, then you can have plants around you. That is also very grounding and connecting you to Earth's energy, because they have this vitality and this energy, and it's a reciprocation. You keep them alive and they give you air in return. It's a beautiful relationship. And there's also benefits to earthing, like it does, scientifically proven, okay? It does reduce inflammation. It reduces free radicals, which is when our cells oxidate and they become damaged. It can relieve tension in the body. I mentioned inflammation and just a whole bunch of things, because it is so important. Like, we literally are children of the earth, and so it's important to connect to her. Consuming root vegetables is a very good way too, because when you eat things of the earth, it connects you to that energy. And if you're eating comfort food, grounding food, root vegetables, things that grow down into the earth, so like carrots, parsnips, turnips, whatever it is, beets, all of these things, and even proteins that also can be a little bit heavier. You can do legumes, chickpeas, red kidney beans, soy, whatever it is, okay? There's a lot of different things we can do. And also eating red foods, because the color red has the same photon and frequency as the root chakra, so that brings you into resonance. There's different movements you can do. You can do grounding yoga poses like Tadasana, which is a mountain pose, even going outside and just walking barefoot. But you don't have to be barefoot, but you can just walk, like do a walking meditation, enjoying nature, hearing the sounds, bringing it into your sensory being, and just really receiving that energy. I mentioned yoga. You can also do breath work. So when we're anxious, and most people do really shallow breathing up here, when we're anxious, our breath is affected. And so that activates the sympathetic response system. So to bring yourself into a calm state, to get rid of that feeling of anxiety, you want to activate the parasympathetic response system. And we do this by deep breathing, and especially through the exhalation. So the longer you exhale and the deeper you breathe into your body, like deep belly breathing, you're going to feel your body reacting in a positive way. You're going to be relaxing, because you can't be relaxed and you can't be stressed at the same time. They're just opposite ends. It's like fight, flight, or freeze, or relaxing. What would you rather do? I personally would rather relax, because when we're relaxed, that's when things come to us and we're in the ability to receive. Also, back onto the manifesting. If you are stressed, and you have that like energy where you're outputting all the time, you're not able to receive. So it's really important that we allow ourselves this time and space for relaxing. As I mentioned, the mantras, so you can chant Lam with the mudra, which again is the ring finger and the thumbs. You can do that. You can also listen to the frequency, and drums which are very tribal, drums are the instrument that kind of brings us into this resonance. So I really love handpan. I can like listen to that all day long. So whatever works for you, those are just some suggestions. Also, because this is connected to our lineage, we carry generational trauma and ancestral trauma in our lineage. It's just stored in our DNA. But the beautiful thing is we don't have to carry that. We don't have to continue that trauma. We can create the ancestral healing within ourselves. And by doing so, we're not only healing our ancestrals, we're healing the future generations. And this takes a lot of reflection. It's not necessarily easy, it's shadow work. There's too much to explain here, but I will do it in another video. But that is just a really beautiful thing. And I have done a lot of ancestral healing lately, and it's just very liberating. Also, affirmations. You know, there's some questions over how effective affirmations are. I'm a huge fan just because I really believe in the importance of sound and positive feedback. So if you're listening to, you know, negative people all the time, you're absorbing that energy. So if you're constantly reaffirming things that are positive, beautiful, empowering, is naturally going to stick with you. And through repetition, you can actually reprogram the brain. It's neuroplasticity, so it's forming new synapses and basically making new memories. So it's really good. And this is one of my favorite parts of yoga. It's just the neuroplasticity as you kind of come into that journey of self-discovery. So for the root chakra, you can do very basic ones. This is I am, because it's you and your physicality. So it's I am grounded, I'm safe, I am connected to the earth's energy, and I'm resonating with the abundance that she brings. I'm healing my ancestral lineage. Whatever it is you want to say that works for you, those are just some examples off the top of my head. And as I mentioned, this is connected to your home, to your environment. So cleaning house, that is a really great way. It also shifts the energy. Feng Shui is like an amazing thing. And, you know, because if we do kind of experience a lot of things, the energy can get stuck in our space. So do a nice smudging, open up the windows. Plants are amazing. You can water your plants. You can do a little gardening. Even if it's your own home jungle, it all works. And I'm not a Feng Shui expert. I'm going to look into it, but I believe it's the south corner is connected to your money energy as well. So that's something also, if that is something that you're working with, just to be mindful of the corners and what they represent in your home. And that's all I can think of for that right now. I just want to share a little story because I was extremely blocked in my root chakra. And a lot of people know this. It was one of my most blocked chakras growing up because I came from a very dysfunctional family. Most people would never assume that, but that's because I've done a lot of work on myself and a lot of healing. But my parents split up when I was very young, and both my parents were alcoholic. My father was, you know, an acknowledged alcoholic, but my mother was like a closet case alcoholic, and I was her enabler. My brother also stopped living with us. He got kicked out of the home. And then once it was me and my mother alone, things started getting really crazy. I was getting kicked out of the house constantly or running away just because I didn't feel safe. And that really shifted my perspective. People are like, don't talk to strangers. Strangers were my safe haven growing up, and my school was constantly getting involved. It was really embarrassing. A lot of different things happen. I'm just gonna make this short and concise for you. I'm gonna actually write about this in my book, so if you're more interested in getting a deeper history, you're more than welcome to read that. But anyways, I basically went into foster care right before high school, and that was crazy. Like, I couldn't believe I was going into foster care, but things were so bad that it was actually a blessing. It was a blessing because I got away from walking on eggshells, from my mother's control, feeling like I was in jail or constantly being in trouble and threatened or whatever, right? I just didn't feel safe. And so that was a huge shift. It was actually kind of a quantum leap, right? Rather than feel like ashamed or whatever, I was like, I embraced it, and things started going really well for me. And then my father and my stepmother at the time went kind of above the system. I was they legally gave their rights up. So I belonged to, I was a Crown ward. And they kind of went above all that and just took me out of care, which they weren't supposed to do, for the reason that it wasn't necessarily a solid foundation. And after a few months, there was a breakdown and I got kicked out again and I went back into foster care. And the second time was a completely different experience. I was in a different place. People were like stealing from me, and I had a curfew and I lived so far away, and I kind of felt like it wasn't as bad as living with my mom, but I felt like I was in jail again, and I just wanted to live. Because at that time, like, you're young, I was 16 at this time, so I'd been in and out of care like for 2 years. And I went on the run. Like, I ran away. I was actually a missing person, and I dropped out of school, which is not something that I'm proud of or I wanted to do, but it was what I felt I had to do because I just wanted to live. I knew it wasn't going to be forever, but I just couldn't live like that. I was like hating it, right? I was very uncomfortable, and I lived with my best friend. We called each other sisters, and we actually still call each other sisters to this day. So she is my soul family. And although we bonded probably at the most toxic time in our life, we both grown up, and I love her. I completely unconditionally love her and accept her for who she is, and she will always be my family. But anyways, we had a crazy wild lifestyle for months, partying, being wild childs, and her grandmother was in the hospital. So we received her grandmother's check, and we paid the rent with that and like partied with whatever was left, right? But then my higher self intervened, and it was basically like, Angela, don't throw your life away, go back to school, you're better than this. So thankfully I listened, but I was, not super grounded at that time, maybe a little codependent on my friend, and I didn't want her to feel abandoned because I knew how that felt. So rather than tell her, I wanted her to think that I got arrested. And so I went to the police station and I turned myself in and let her think that I got arrested, just because I didn't want to have that conversation. But I actually think that was probably the best thing for both of us because it put an end to that toxic cycle. And I went to the police station and they were like, what are you doing? It was like this 16-year-old girl, and I told them. So because I wasn't in care anymore and I'd run away, like I was actually in a detention center for 3 days, and my social worker got me out of there ASAP. She told me she'd rather me sleep in her car. But she asked me why I did that. And after living with my mom, I was pretty fearless because I was already like so used to like not having a place to live. So I figured it wasn't that bad. But I told her, I was like, I felt like I was in jail and I just wanted to live a little, to have my independence. And obviously I did it. Like I was, supposed to be in the care of the government and survived by myself for months. And so they granted me independence, which was unheard of. So I was one of the first people in foster care to live on my own. And so I got my own apartment. I started getting a job so I could get some extra money, and I started getting all these responsibilities, and I became a peer mentor, and I was inspiring and helping other children in care, and my whole life changed. That was like another quantum leap, and I embraced it. And once I had that independence, I was not going to lose it. So everything changed. I started getting grades again. I got bursaries and a full scholarship into the university of my choice, which was OCAD in Toronto. So I actually moved to Toronto for school. But that was like a huge game changer. And then I went to Toronto and I made it all through university. I graduated in the top 10 of my class. I got a job in the ad agency that I wanted, and then I felt like the Matrix. I didn't know what it was, but I just felt the Matrix, and I was like, I need to get out of here. And so I moved, and I worked in an ad agency overseas, which actually was even worse, surprisingly. And so I traveled Europe. I did 15 countries on a shoestring by myself, and that was a huge accomplishment. It was a big check off my bucket list, and I proved to myself that I could do it, and I deserved it. And then I came back to Canada. Oh, and on top of that, like after I graduated, I had over $50,000 in the bank, and it paid off my $24,000 student debt in one go. So I was like super, in manifesting mode and very like materially successful. And after all of that traveling, I came back to Canada, and I didn't have a home. I didn't have that foundation. I didn't have a stability. So of course, I went to my parents. And that was the worst thing that I could have done. Well, actually, maybe it was the best thing, but it was very hard because I'd done all this stuff. I hadn't necessarily healed, but I've moved on, right? And like I had put all that behind me, and I became my own sovereign being and was, you know, thriving. But then I put myself in that vulnerable state, and both my parents, I had breakdowns. I was like bawling my eyes out. My mom kicked me out and called the cops on me, and it brought me back into that childhood state of being traumatized and feeling like I wasn't worth anything. And then I had like years of me having to do all this healing again. But the difference is, after all of this healing, this is where I didn't have a support system. I didn't have a social worker to bounce stuff off with objective points of views. I had to do it all on my own. And I did it through a lot of different means. But what I did, the difference is this time it wasn't like a superficial healing. It wasn't me just like kind of blocking it out and looking forward, because you can do that. But then you can get triggered again, which happened to me. And then it was like worse because I was young, I was older, and like things were completely different. Now it's like I've done all the work and I'm grounded and I've healed and I forgive my parents. And whatever happens now, I'm at home in myself, right? And yeah, it's just, it's really important to do the inner work and to forgive and to recognize the toxic patterns and the family dynamics and all of these things that you're told of who you are or what you're supposed to be or how you're supposed to act or think, because none of that is your own, right? And so when you come into that and you really own who you are and what you're supposed to do and who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to show up, that is your sovereignty. So anyways, that was just a little longer than I wanted to tell you. But if any of this resonated with you, please give this video a like or subscribe to support the channel. And if I can do it, you can do it too. Anyways, that is all for now, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.